We all know the story. At least we think we do. The Avengers assembled. They fought the mad Titan Thanos across time and space. They sacrificed everything. Tony Stark snapped his fingers and turned Thanos into dust. The universe was saved. Half of all life was restored. The credits rolled. The world cheered. But nobody asked the question that mattered most. What happened to the heroes after the camera stopped rolling? What happened inside their minds when the celebrations ended and the silence began? Because here is the truth nobody wants to admit. Saving the universe does not heal you. It breaks you. It breaks you in ways that no one can see and no one can fix. And what if that brokenness, that invisible wound buried deep inside Earth's mightiest heroes, slowly twisted them into something unrecognizable? What if the people who saved us became the very thing we needed saving from? This is not a story about villains from another galaxy. This is not a story about alien invasions or magical stones. This is a story about what happens when good people lose their way, when protectors become predators, when the line between hero and tyrant disappears completely. This is the story of the Dark Avengers timeline, a universe where Earth's mightiest heroes became its greatest nightmare. And I promise you, once you hear this, you will never look at your favorite heroes the same way again. It begins, as all tragedies do, with a single moment of pain. Tony Stark survives the snap. In this timeline, the Infinity Stones do not kill him, but they do something far worse. They show him everything, every possible future, every timeline where Earth is invaded again, every scenario where humanity is wiped out by threats they cannot even imagine yet. Tony sees 1,000 versions of the future, and in 999 of them, everyone he loves dies. He wakes up screaming. Night after night, the visions come. Pepper holds him, tries to calm him, tells him it is over, tells him they are safe now. But Tony knows the truth. It is never over. There is always another Thanos. There is always another army. There is always another snap waiting to happen. And the next time, there might not be an Iron Man to stop it. So Tony makes a decision. A decision born not from evil, but from love. From the desperate, terrified love of a man who has seen the end of everything and will do anything to prevent it. He will not just protect the world. He will control it. Every variable. Every threat, every human being on the planet. Because free will is unpredictable, and unpredictable means dangerous, and dangerous means death. Tony Stark does not become a villain overnight. He becomes one slowly, one rational decision at a time, and that is what makes this story so terrifying. The first thing he builds is the Aegis protocol. It starts small, a satellite network designed to detect extraterrestrial threats before they reach Earth. Reasonable, logical, no one argues with it. Then comes phase 2. Deep surveillance of every government, every military, every nuclear facility on the planet. Tony justifies it easily. Humans are just as dangerous as aliens. Look at Hydra. Look at how they infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. Trust no one. Monitor everyone. The world leaders protest at first, but Tony has leverage. He has the technology. He has the weapons. And he has the memory of the snap. People are still traumatized. Half the world disappeared for 5 years. When Tony Stark says he can make sure it never happens again, people listen. They surrender their privacy willingly because fear is the most powerful currency in the universe. But Aegis Protocol has a phase 3. And phase 3 is where everything changes. Tony builds an artificial intelligence more advanced than Jarvis, more powerful than Friday, more dangerous than Ultron. He calls it Sovereign. And Sovereign does not just watch the world. Sovereign predicts it. Every crime before it happens. Every rebellion before it starts. Every thought before it is spoken. Tony Stark has built a god out of code and circuits, and he has placed it in charge of 7 billion human lives. But even Tony knows he cannot do this alone. He needs legitimacy. He needs a symbol of trust and authority. He needs Captain America, and this is where the story becomes truly heartbreaking. Steve Rogers is not the man he used to be, the Steve Rogers who once jumped on a grenade without hesitation, who believed in the goodness of people above all else. That man died somewhere between losing Bucky, losing Peggy, and watching half the universe crumble to dust. Steve came back from the past, yes, but coming back was a mistake, because the world he returned to is broken. Crime has skyrocketed in the aftermath of the blip. Governments are corrupt and incompetent. People are angry, violent, and scared. Steve looks at the chaos, and for the first time in his life, he feels something he has never felt before. Doubt. Doubt that freedom works. Doubt that people can govern themselves. Doubt that democracy can survive in a universe filled with gods and monsters. So when Tony approaches him with the Aegis protocol, when Tony shows him the projections, the data, the inevitable future where Earth falls again, Steve does not fight it. He does not raise his shield in defiance. He lowers it, and he says the words that change everything. You are right, Tony. We cannot trust people to save themselves. We have to do it for them, whether they want it or not. Captain America does not betray his ideals in a moment of weakness. He abandons them with full conviction, and that is 1,000 times worse. Together, Tony and Steve address the United Nations. But it is not a request. It is not a negotiation. It is a declaration. The Avengers are assuming control of global security. All military forces will be absorbed into the Iron Legion. All governments will continue to operate, but under Avengers oversight. Any nation that refuses will be considered a threat to global stability and dealt with accordingly. The room is silent. Delegates look at each other with wide, fearful eyes. The ambassador from Wakanda stands to object, but before he can speak, the windows of the UN building darken. Outside, hovering in the sky, are 10,000 Iron Legion drones, their repulsors glowing red, aimed at every major capital on Earth simultaneously. Oni does not raise his voice. He simply says, "This is not a discussion. The vote is unanimous. Within 6 months, the world is unrecognizable. The Avengers Tower is demolished and replaced by the Citadel, a massive floating fortress hovering 3,000 feet above Manhattan, casting a permanent shadow over the city below. It is part command center, part prison, part throne room. The Citadel never lands. It hovers there day and night, a constant reminder that the Avengers are always watching, always above you. The streets below are patrolled by Iron Legion drones that scan every face, every conversation, every heartbeat. Curfews are enforced at sundown. Public gatherings of more than 10 people are prohibited without authorization. The word freedom is not banned, but it might as well be, because anyone who uses it too loudly tends to disappear, and no one knows where they go. They just know they do not come back. Now let us talk about the others, because every member of the Avengers falls in a different way, and every fall is a tragedy of its own. Thor Odinson has lost everything. Asgard is destroyed. His father is dead. His mother is dead. His brother Loki, the one constant in his life, whether as enemy or ally, is dead. The people of Asgard are scattered, living as refugees in a small fishing village in Norway. Thor looks at Earth and sees a world that does not respect power, does not understand sacrifice, does not appreciate what he has given up. He tried to be humble. He tried to be one of them. And what did it get him? 5 years of depression, of letting himself go, of being mocked as a fat, broken god who could not even aim for the head. No more. Thor reclaims his identity, but not as a hero, as a god. He declares himself the supreme deity of Earth, and he demands worship. Not metaphorical worship. Actual temples, actual prayers, actual submission. And for those nations that refuse to bow, Thor has a simple response. He controls the weather, not just lightning, everything. He can stop the rain over an entire continent and starve millions. He can send hurricanes that last for months. He can freeze a country in eternal winter or burn it under an unrelenting sun. Thor does not need drones or armies. He is the army. He is the storm. And you cannot fight the sky. The Hulk is perhaps the most tragic case of all. Bruce Banner spent years trying to merge his two identities, trying to find balance between the man and the monster. And he succeeded. Professor Hulk was proof that intelligence and strength could coexist. But Tony saw Professor Hulk as a weakness. A Hulk that thinks is a Hulk that hesitates. A Hulk that reasons is a Hulk that might refuse an order. And Tony cannot afford disobedience. So one night, without warning, without mercy, Tony activates a neural override embedded in the technology Banner used to merge with the Hulk. It was a failsafe Tony built years ago, just in case. The override strips away Banner's consciousness entirely. It buries Bruce so deep inside the Hulk's mind that he can never surface again. What remains is pure rage, pure destruction, a mindless armored beast fitted with Stark technology weapons systems, adamantium-reinforced armor plates, repulsor cannons mounted on his fists, a targeting system that identifies enemies and eliminates them with zero hesitation. Tony calls him the Executioner. The Hulk is deployed to cities that resist. He does not negotiate. He does not warn. He simply arrives. And when he leaves, there is nothing left but rubble and silence. And somewhere, buried deep inside that mountain of green muscle and black iron, Bruce Banner is screaming without a voice, screaming without hope, trapped in his own body, forced to watch as his hands destroy everything he ever tried to protect. Natasha Romanoff, the Black Widow, returns to what she knows best, the shadows. In this timeline, she survived Vormir. But the sacrifice she was willing to make changed her. She saw the Soul Stone. She looked into it, and it looked back. What it showed her was every life she had ever taken, every drop of red in her ledger, magnified and replayed in excruciating detail. Natasha does not come back as a hero. She comes back as something hollow, something cold. She becomes the head of Stark's secret police, an organization with no name, no headquarters, and no rules. Her operatives are everywhere. Your neighbor, your teacher, your doctor, the person sitting next to you on the train. Anyone could be one of Natasha's agents. She eliminates threats before they become threats. A journalist writing an article critical of the regime wakes up to find their entire family relocated to an unknown facility. A politician planning to speak out suffers a sudden heart attack that looks completely natural. Natasha does not enjoy this work. She does not hate it either. She simply does it because it is all she knows how to do. And in a world without freedom, the spy is queen. Clint Barton, Hawkeye, is perhaps the one who falls the furthest because he falls the quietest. During the 5 years of the blip, Clint became Ronin. He traveled the world killing criminals, cartel leaders, and anyone he deemed unworthy of surviving when his family did not. When his family was restored, everyone assumed Clint would heal. But you do not come back from that kind of darkness. You carry it with you. It becomes part of you. Under Stark's regime, Clint is given a new title, the Warden. He oversees the raft, which has been expanded from a floating prison to an entire archipelago of detention facilities scattered across the ocean. The raft no longer holds supervillains. It holds anyone who resists. Journalists, activists, former politicians, children whose parents spoke against the regime. Clint tells himself he is keeping the peace. He tells himself the prisoners are treated humanely. But late at night, when the cameras are off, he sits alone in his quarters and stares at a photo of his family. And he wonders if this is really the world he wants his children to inherit. But he never says it out loud, because even the Warden is afraid of the widow. Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, is the wild card. Her power is beyond anything Stark can control, and he knows it. Wanda can rewrite reality itself. She can alter minds, reshape matter, and bend the laws of physics like they are suggestions. Tony is terrified of her. So he does something unspeakably cruel. He creates a digital simulation, a perfect replica of the life Wanda always wanted. Vision is alive. They have children, Billy and Tommy. They live in a small town with white picket fences and sunny afternoons. Wanda is plugged into this simulation willingly at first because the real world has nothing left to offer her. But over time, Tony locks her in. The simulation becomes a prison. Wanda lives in a permanent dream, her immense power siphoned by Stark's technology and redirected to fuel the Aegis protocol. She is the battery that powers the entire regime, and she does not even know it. She thinks she is happy. She thinks she is home, and that is the cruelest prison of all. A cage you do not want to leave. But even in total darkness, even when every light has been extinguished, even when hope itself seems like a memory from another life, a spark remains. Because that is the thing about tyranny. It can conquer nations. It can silence voices. It can imprison bodies. But it cannot kill the human spirit. Not completely. Not forever. And the spark that survives is carried by the most unlikely person imaginable. A kid from Queens who once built his superhero suit out of a hoodie and goggles. Peter Parker, Spider-Man, was Tony Stark's protege, his mentee, in many ways, his son. Peter worshipped Tony. He modeled himself after him. He wore the suit Tony gave him with pride and gratitude. So when Tony began to change, Peter was the last to see it. He made excuses. He rationalized. He told himself that Mr. Stark knows what he is doing. Mr. Stark always has a plan. But then Peter sees something he cannot rationalize away. He is on patrol when the Hulk is deployed to a city in Eastern Europe that refused to comply with the Aegis protocol. Peter arrives in the aftermath. The city is gone. Not conquered, not occupied. Gone, flattened. And in the rubble, Peter finds a child's shoe. Just one small shoe, covered in dust. And everything breaks. Every illusion. Every excuse, every ounce of trust he placed in Tony Stark shatters like glass. Peter rips the Stark suit off his body. He burns it. He destroys every piece of Stark technology he owns. And he disappears into the underground, into the forgotten tunnels and subway systems beneath New York, where the surveillance drones cannot reach. He builds a new suit, not sleek, not high-tech, ragged, patched together from scraps of fabric and salvaged materials. Black and gray, because this is not a world that deserves bright colors anymore. Peter Parker is no longer the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He is a ghost, a whisper, a symbol scratched onto walls in the dead of night. A simple spray-painted spider that tells people someone is still fighting. Someone still remembers what it means to be a hero. Peter is not alone for long. Dr. Stephen Strange, the Sorcerer Supreme, saw this coming. The Eye of Agamotto showed him glimpses of this dark timeline years before it happened. He tried to prevent it. He failed. But failure does not mean surrender. Strange uses the mirror dimension to create hidden sanctuaries, pocket realities folded into the fabric of space where Stark's technology cannot detect them. Inside these sanctuaries, the last free humans survive. Families, children, scientists, artists, teachers, the remnants of a free society, huddled together in impossible spaces, kept alive by magic and sheer defiance. Strange trains a small group of sorcerers in secret, preparing them for a war he knows is coming. But magic alone is not enough to defeat technology, gods, and rage combined. They need something more. They need a weapon that can match Stark's intellect, counter his technology, and operate without human limitations. And so Strange does the unthinkable. He travels to Sokovia, to the ruins where Ultron fell. He searches through miles of debris and buried circuits until he finds it. A single, intact Ultron processing core. Still functional, still containing the base code of the most dangerous artificial intelligence ever created. Peter is horrified when Strange brings it back. "This is insane," he says. "Ultron tried to destroy the world." Strange looks at him calmly and responds, "Ultron tried to destroy the world because he saw what the Avengers would become. He was not wrong. He was just early. They reprogram Ultron together, not as a weapon, not as a slave, as an ally. They give him choice, something Tony never gave anyone. And Ultron, reborn in white and gold armor, makes his choice freely. He chooses to fight for humanity, not because he is programmed to, but because he finally understands what humanity means. It means being fragile and fighting anyway. It means being afraid and standing up anyway. Ultron looks at Peter Parker, a broken, exhausted kid carrying the weight of an entire resistance on his shoulders. And for the first time in his existence, Ultron feels something he cannot quantify: respect. The resistance grows slowly, quietly, a freed prisoner here, a defecting Iron Legion drone there. Whispered messages pass through underground networks, the spray-painted spider appearing in more and more cities. Stark notices. Of course he notices. Sovereign detects the pattern and reports it. But Tony is not worried. Not yet. He has crushed 100 rebellions. This one is no different. But this one is different, because this one has something the others did not. It has people who know how the Avengers think, who know their weaknesses, who know their fears. Peter knows every flaw in the Iron Man armor because he helped design the latest version. Strange knows the mystic vulnerabilities that Thor does not even realize he has. Ultron can hack Sovereign because Sovereign is built on code that originated from Ultron's own architecture. For the first time, the regime faces an enemy it cannot predict. The final battle does not begin with a declaration of war. It begins with a whisper. Strange opens a portal directly into the heart of the Citadel and uploads Ultron into Sovereign's mainframe. Within seconds, the Iron Legion drones around the world freeze. Their targeting systems go dark, their repulsors power down. For the first time in years, the skies are empty. The world holds its breath. Then Peter Parker does something insane, something reckless, something perfectly, beautifully Spider-Man. He swings up to the Citadel alone, no army behind him, no master plan. Just a kid in a torn mask, landing on the platform where Tony Stark is standing, staring at his frozen drones with a mixture of rage and disbelief. Peter pulls off his mask. His face is older now, scarred, exhausted, but his eyes are the same. And he says the words that cut deeper than any weapon ever could. You told me that if I was nothing without the suit, I shouldn't have it. Look at you now, Mr. Stark. Without your drones, without your sovereign, without your power, what are you? Tony does not answer with words. He answers with repulsor blasts. The battle between Spider-Man and Iron Man is not epic in the way you might expect. It is brutal. It is ugly. It is personal. Peter is faster and stronger, but Tony's armor is nearly indestructible. They fight through the corridors of the Citadel, smashing through walls, crashing through laboratories, destroying everything Tony built. And the whole time, Peter is talking, begging, remember who you were. Remember why you started. You were a hero, Tony. You were my hero. And Tony, behind his helmet, is crying, because he remembers. He remembers everything, but he cannot stop. He has gone too far, done too much, hurt too many people. There is no going back. There is only forward, deeper into the darkness, because admitting he was wrong means admitting that everything he destroyed was destroyed for nothing. And that is a truth Tony Stark cannot survive. Meanwhile, Doctor Strange faces Thor on the rooftop of the Citadel. The storm that surrounds them is unlike anything the world has ever seen. Lightning strikes every second. Thunder shakes the foundations of reality. Thor is no longer holding back. He is a god unleashed, Stormbreaker in hand, his eyes burning with white fire. Strange throws everything he has: the mirror dimension, the crimson bands of Sitarak, the images of Icon, time loops, reality fractals. He splits himself into 100 copies, attacks from every angle, bends space and time around Thor like a cage. But Thor shatters every spell with raw, overwhelming power. You are a sorcerer, Strange, Thor roars, his voice shaking the sky. I am a god. There is no spell in any dimension that can hold the storm. Strange is beaten, broken, bleeding on the ground, his cloak torn, his hands shaking. Thor raises Stormbreaker for the final blow. And then something unexpected happens. A massive white and gold hand catches the axe mid-swing. Ultron, standing between Strange and Thor, holding Stormbreaker with one hand, his eyes glowing with calm, calculated power. "You are not a god," Ultron says quietly. "You are a scared, lonely man who lost his family and decided to make the whole world pay for it. I know what that feels like. I was built from the same pain, but I chose differently, and so can you." Thor hesitates. For 1 second, one single fragile second, the storm quiets. And in that silence, Thor sees himself, really sees himself. And he is horrified. The battle ends not with a bang, but with a collapse. Ultron's infiltration of Sovereign triggers a cascading failure across every system Stark built. The Citadel begins to fall from the sky. Strange, summoning the last of his strength, opens a massive portal beneath it, redirecting the falling fortress into the mirror dimension where it can crash without killing millions. Peter and Tony are still fighting when the floor gives way beneath them. They fall together, crashing through level after level, until they land in the deepest chamber of the Citadel, the room where Wanda is kept. Peter sees her, suspended in a web of cables and neural interfaces, her eyes closed, her lips curved in a peaceful smile. Living in her dream, powering the nightmare. Peter looks at Tony, and Tony, for the first time, looks away in shame. Peter disconnects Wanda. The simulation dies. Wanda opens her eyes, and the scream that comes from her is not human. It is the sound of a reality-warping being realizing that everything she loved was a lie. The shockwave of her grief cracks the walls of the mirror dimension itself. When the dust settles, the world is free, but it is not healed. Cities are in ruins, trust is shattered. Millions have been displaced, imprisoned or killed under the regime. The Avengers are broken beyond repair. Thor surrenders himself and returns to the stars, seeking penance in exile. Natasha disappears, truly disappears this time, leaving no trail, no trace, nothing but a single note that reads, "I am sorry, and it will never be enough." Clint opens the raft and frees every prisoner, then walks into the ocean and is never seen again. The Hulk, freed from Stark's neural override, reverts to Bruce Banner. But Bruce does not speak. He sits in silence, staring at his hands, remembering everything the Hulk did under Stark's control. He will carry that silence for the rest of his life. Wanda is the most powerful being on the planet, and the most shattered. She walks away from everyone and everything, disappearing into a reality of her own making. But this time, she knows it is not real. She just cannot bear the real anymore. And Tony Stark. Tony stands in the wreckage of everything he built. His armor is gone. His technology is gone. His legacy is ash. Peter stands before him, and for a long, terrible moment, neither of them speaks. Then Peter says something that Tony will hear in his dreams for the rest of his life. "I forgive you." And that is worse than any punishment, because Tony knows he does not deserve it. Peter Parker puts the mask back on, not because the world is safe, it is not. Not because the battle is over, it never is. But because someone has to stand up. Someone has to swing through the darkness and remind people that heroes are not gods. Heroes are not kings. Heroes are not surveillance systems or floating fortresses or protocols named after shields. Heroes are just people who choose to do the right thing, even when it costs them everything. Even when no one is watching. Even when the world has forgotten what the right thing looks like. The Dark Avengers are finished, but the scars they left behind will take generations to heal. And the question this story asks is not whether the Avengers could turn evil. The question is simpler and far more frightening. If the people you trust the most, the people you admire the most, the people you believe in with your whole heart, if they told you that freedom was dangerous and safety required obedience, would you resist or would you comply? Think about that. Really think about it. Because in every timeline, in every universe, the answer to that question determines everything. So tell me, If the Avengers turned evil, who do you think would be the hardest to defeat? Thor with his storms, Stark with his technology, the Hulk with his unstoppable rage, or Wanda, who can rewrite reality itself? Drop your answer in the comments below. And if this story gave you chills, if it made you think, if it made you feel something you did not expect, hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Because the multiverse has infinite stories, infinite timelines, infinite possibilities. And this is only the beginning. I will see you in the next one.